The summer heat shimmered off the pristine white sand of Miami Beach as three lifelong friends prepared for what they believed would be the perfect end to their college graduation celebration. The date was Saturday, June 23, 2019, and the temperature had already reached 87 degrees by 10 in the morning, promising another scorching South Florida day that would draw thousands of visitors to the world-famous coastline. 22-year-old Isabella Rodriguez had been planning this Miami Beach weekend for months, coordinating schedules and making reservations with the meticulous attention to detail that had made her the unofficial organizer of their friend group since high school. Isabella had just graduated summa cum laude from Florida International University with a degree in marine biology, and this trip represented both a celebration of her academic achievements and a final adventure before she started her graduate program at the University of Miami's Rosenstiel School of Marine and Atmospheric Science. Born and raised in Coral Gables to Cuban-American parents who had immigrated to Miami in the 1980s, Isabella embodied the vibrant multicultural spirit that defined South Florida. She was fluent in both English and Spanish, switching effortlessly between languages depending on her audience, and had grown up spending countless hours exploring the beaches, coral reefs, and marine ecosystems that would eventually become her professional passion. Her parents, Carlos and Maria Rodriguez, owned a successful restaurant in Little Havana and had instilled in Isabella a deep appreciation for hard work, family loyalty, and the natural beauty of their adopted homeland. Isabella's best friend since childhood, 21-year-old Ashley Williams, had traveled down from Tallahassee where she had just completed her senior year at Florida State University with a degree in broadcast journalism. Ashley was everything Isabella wasn't, outgoing where Isabella was thoughtful, impulsive where Isabella was careful, and blessed with the kind of natural charisma that made strangers feel like old friends within minutes of meeting her. She had grown up in Jacksonville in a military family, moving frequently during her childhood before her father's retirement allowed them to settle permanently in Florida. Ashley's dream was to become a television news anchor, and she had spent her college years building an impressive resume through internships at local stations and freelance reporting for online news outlets. She had recently been offered a junior reporter position at a television station in Orlando, and this Miami Beach trip was her way of celebrating both her graduation and her first real job in journalism. Ashley possessed an infectious enthusiasm for life that drew people to her naturally, and she had been the one to suggest that they document their weekend adventure with extensive photos and videos for their social media accounts. The third member of their trio was 22-year-old Marcus Johnson, Isabella's boyfriend of 3 years and a recent graduate of the University of Florida with a degree in computer engineering. Marcus had grown up in Tampa in a close-knit African-American family that had emphasized education and community service as paths to success. His parents, both educators, had supported his passion for technology while also ensuring that he remained grounded in strong moral values and social responsibility. Marcus was quiet and analytical by nature, serving as a calming influence on Isabella's intensity and Ashley's spontaneity. He had accepted a software engineering position with a tech startup in Austin, Texas, which meant that this Miami Beach trip also represented a farewell celebration before he moved across the country to begin his new career. The long-distance relationship challenge that lay ahead had been weighing on both Marcus and Isabella, making this weekend even more precious as they tried to create lasting memories before facing an uncertain future. The three friends had arrived in Miami Beach on Friday evening, checking into a modest but clean hotel on Collins Avenue that Ashley had found through an online booking site. They had spent Friday night exploring Lincoln Road, sampling the diverse culinary offerings at various restaurants, and soaking in the electric atmosphere of one of America's most vibrant nightlife destinations. Isabella had been particularly excited to try several Cuban restaurants that had been recommended by her parents, while Ashley had been fascinated by the Art Deco architecture that gave Miami Beach its distinctive visual character. Saturday morning had dawned clear and beautiful, with light winds and calm seas that promised perfect conditions for their planned beach activities. The friends had purchased day passes for umbrella and chair rentals from one of the many vendors that lined the beach, setting up their base camp near 10th Street where the crowds were manageable, but the amenities were easily accessible. Isabella had brought her underwater camera and snorkeling gear, hoping to explore the nearshore marine life that she had studied in her university courses, but had never had the opportunity to observe in Miami's waters. Marcus had packed a waterproof case for his phone and a portable speaker so they could enjoy music while relaxing on the sand. Ashley had brought an extensive collection of sunscreens, beach games, and the kind of colorful accessories that would look perfect in the photos she planned to post throughout the weekend. Their morning had been everything they had hoped for. Swimming in the warm Atlantic waters, playing volleyball with other beachgoers, and sharing the kind of easy conversation and laughter that characterized their long friendship. Isabella had been delighted to spot several species of tropical fish during her snorkeling expeditions, taking dozens of underwater photographs that she planned to use in her graduate school applications. Marcus had impressed other beach visitors with his frisbee skills, while Ashley had charmed everyone around them with her natural ability to make strangers feel included in their activities. If you enjoy real mysteries like this one, please subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any cases. Around 2:30 that afternoon, as the beach reached its peak, crowding with families, college students, and tourists from around the world, the three friends decided to take a walk along the shoreline toward the less crowded area near 5th Street. Isabella wanted to explore a rocky outcropping she had noticed earlier, hoping to find more diverse marine life in the slightly deeper waters near the rocks. Ashley was eager to take photos at what she had heard was a particularly scenic spot where the beach curved and provided dramatic views of both the coastline and the Miami skyline. Marcus, who had been enjoying the relaxed pace of their beach day, agreed to accompany them on the walk, though he planned to stay on the beach rather than joining Isabella's snorkeling expedition. He had brought a book about artificial intelligence that he hoped to finish before starting his new job, and the afternoon seemed perfect for reading in the shade while his girlfriend and best friend explored the water. At approximately 3:15, Isabella, Ashley, and Marcus left their beach setup under the watchful eye of nearby families who had befriended them earlier in the day. They walked south along the water's edge, stopping frequently to take photos and collect interesting shells that Ashley wanted to keep as souvenirs. Other beachgoers later recalled seeing the three friends walking together, laughing and appearing completely relaxed and happy. The rocky area Isabella had wanted to explore was located about half a mile from their original beach setup, in a section where the beach narrowed and the crowd density decreased significantly. The rocks extended into the water for approximately 50 yards, creating small pools and channels that harbored the kind of marine life Isabella found fascinating. Local swimmers and snorkelers knew the area well, but it was less familiar to tourists and occasional visitors. At 3:45, according to timestamps on photos later recovered from Ashley's phone, the three friends had reached their destination and were setting up for Isabella's snorkeling expedition. The photos showed them smiling and joking around the rocky outcropping, with Marcus settling into a comfortable spot on the sand, while Isabella and Ashley prepared the snorkeling equipment. What happened next would become one of the most perplexing disappearances in Miami-Dade County's recent history. A mystery that would devastate three families, perplex investigators, and remain unsolved for 4 agonizing years, before a horrifying discovery finally provided answers that no one could have anticipated. At 4:30 that afternoon, when the three friends failed to return to their beach setup as promised, the families who had been watching their belongings began to express concern. By 5 o'clock, when Isabella, Ashley, and Marcus were still nowhere to be seen, these Good Samaritans contacted Miami Beach Police to report 3 missing beachgoers who had left their personal property unattended for an unusually long time. Officer Carmen Delgado of the Miami Beach Police Department responded to the call, initially treating it as a routine matter of beachgoers who had lost track of time or changed their plans without thinking to retrieve their belongings. However, when she examined the friends' beach setup, she found several items that suggested a more serious situation. Isabella's car keys, Marcus's wallet containing his identification and credit cards, and Ashley's purse with her phone charger and hotel room key. Officer Delgado immediately expanded her inquiry, walking to the rocky area where the friends had last been seen, and interviewing other beachgoers who might have observed their activities. Several witnesses confirmed seeing the three friends walking toward the rocks around 3:15, but no one recalled seeing them after approximately 4 o'clock. The initial search focused on the water around the rocky outcropping, with Miami Beach lifeguards and Marine Patrol units checking for any signs of the missing friends or evidence of an accident. The ocean conditions had been calm throughout the day, with minimal wave action and excellent visibility, making a drowning incident unlikely, but not impossible. Detective Luis Morales of the Miami Beach Police Department took charge of the investigation on Sunday morning, bringing 12 years of experience in missing person cases and a deep familiarity with the unique challenges of beach-related disappearances. Morales had grown up in Miami Beach and understood both the area's appeal to visitors and the various dangers that could threaten inexperienced swimmers and snorkelers. The investigation began with a comprehensive review of the friends' activities and backgrounds, looking for any factors that might explain their disappearance. Morales interviewed their families, reviewed their social media accounts, and examined their recent communications for any indication of problems or unusual behavior. Isabella's parents, Carlos and Maria Rodriguez, provided investigators with detailed information about their daughter's swimming abilities and experience with marine environments. They emphasized that Isabella was an expert swimmer who had been snorkeling since childhood and would never take unnecessary risks in the water. Her academic focus on marine biology had given her extensive knowledge of ocean safety and local marine conditions. Ashley's parents, retired Colonel James Williams, and his wife Patricia, flew to Miami from Jacksonville as soon as they learned of their daughter's disappearance. They described Ashley as adventurous, but not reckless, someone who would document her activities extensively, but wouldn't venture into dangerous situations without proper precautions. Marcus's parents, David and Linda Johnson, drove down from Tampa, bringing with them their son's laptop and other personal items that might provide insights into his recent activities and state of mind. They characterized Marcus as cautious and responsible, someone who would prioritize the safety of his girlfriend and best friend above any personal desires for adventure or excitement. The search operation expanded significantly on Monday, with Coast Guard vessels, police divers, and volunteer rescue teams combing the waters around the rocky outcropping where the friends had last been seen. Advanced sonar equipment was deployed to search for any underwater evidence, while helicopters conducted aerial surveys of the coastline and nearby waters. On Tuesday, searchers made their first significant discovery when a diver found Isabella's underwater camera, approximately 100 yards offshore from the rocky area. The camera was found on the ocean floor in about 20 feet of water, with its memory card intact and containing dozens of photos from the friends' beach day, including several underwater shots that Isabella had taken shortly before their disappearance. The final photos on Isabella's camera provided investigators with crucial information about the friends' last known activities. The timestamp on the last image showed 4:07 p.m., indicating that Isabella had been actively snorkeling less than half an hour before they were reported missing. The photos showed typical underwater scenes: tropical fish, coral formations, and sandy bottom areas that were consistent with the location where the camera was found. However, the camera's discovery also raised disturbing questions about what had happened to the three friends. The device was found in an area that would have been easily accessible to Isabella during her snorkeling expedition, but the fact that she had apparently abandoned such expensive equipment suggested that something had gone seriously wrong during their afternoon activities. Detective Morales consulted with marine biology experts and experienced local divers to understand the underwater conditions and potential hazards in the area where the friends had disappeared. The rocky outcropping was known to local diving enthusiasts, but contained several features that could be dangerous to inexperienced swimmers. Strong currents around the rocks, underwater caves that could trap unwary explorers, and sharp coral formations that could cause injuries. 1 week after the disappearance, the investigation had generated numerous theories but no concrete answers. The search operation had covered over 50 square miles of ocean, interviewed hundreds of potential witnesses, and analyzed every piece of available evidence. But Isabella Rodriguez, Ashley Williams, and Marcus Johnson remained missing without any clear indication of what had happened to them. The case attracted significant media attention, particularly in South Florida, where beach safety was a constant concern for both residents and the millions of tourists who visited the area each year. Local television stations featured daily updates on the search efforts, while social media campaigns organized by the friends' families and classmates kept the story in public consciousness. The three families struggled with the lack of closure and the unanswered questions that surrounded their children's disappearance. They organized vigils, distributed flyers, and maintained hope that Isabella, Ashley, and Marcus might somehow still be alive, perhaps stranded on a remote island or suffering from amnesia in a distant hospital. The investigation remained active throughout the summer of 2019, with periodic searches focusing on different areas of the coastline and adjacent waters. Detective Morales continued following leads and interviewing potential witnesses, but the case gradually transitioned from an active rescue operation to a cold case investigation as months passed without any new developments. In August 2019, the case received renewed attention when a beachcomber found what appeared to be Ashley's distinctive beach bag washed up on Key Biscayne, approximately 15 miles south of where the friends had disappeared. However, DNA testing and analysis of the bag's contents proved inconclusive, and the item's journey through ocean currents made it impossible to determine when or where it had entered the water. The families of the missing friends established a memorial fund and continued organizing search efforts, refusing to accept that their children might never be found. They worked with private investigators, consulted with psychics and mediums, and explored every possible theory that might explain the disappearance, from human trafficking to drug cartel involvement to elaborate hoaxes. Isabella's parents, devastated by the loss of their only child, struggled to maintain their restaurant business while dealing with their grief and the constant uncertainty about their daughter's fate. Maria Rodriguez became involved with support groups for families of missing persons, while Carlos focused his energy on funding continued search efforts and maintaining public awareness of the case. Ashley's military family approached the tragedy with characteristic discipline and organization, creating detailed databases of tips and leads while coordinating with law enforcement agencies across multiple jurisdictions. Colonel Williams used his military contacts to access additional search resources, while Patricia Williams became a vocal advocate for improved beach safety measures. Marcus's parents, both educators, channeled their grief into creating scholarship programs and mentoring opportunities for young people interested in technology careers. They maintained their son's social media accounts and website, hoping that continued online presence might somehow lead to information about his whereabouts. The case was reviewed multiple times between 2020 and 2023, with each review incorporating new investigative techniques and forensic technologies. Advanced underwater search equipment was used to re-examine the ocean floor around the rocky outcropping, while digital analysis techniques were applied to social media posts and electronic communications from the days leading up to the disappearance. In 2021, the COVID pandemic complicated search efforts and reduced media attention, but the families continued their private investigations and maintained contact with law enforcement officials who had worked on the case. They adapted to virtual memorial services and online awareness campaigns, refusing to let the passage of time diminish public interest in finding their children. The investigation took a shocking turn in July 2023, exactly 4 years after Isabella, Ashley, and Marcus had disappeared, when a Miami Beach lifeguard made a discovery that would finally provide answers to the questions that had haunted 3 families and an entire community for over 1,400 days. Roberto Silva, a 28-year-old lifeguard who had been working Miami Beach for 6 years, was conducting a routine inspection of a restricted access area beneath one of the beach's historic piers, when he noticed something unusual protruding from behind a concrete support pillar. The area was typically off-limits to the public and was only accessed by maintenance personnel and authorized beach staff during periodic safety inspections. Using his flashlight to illuminate the dark space beneath the pier, Silva discovered what appeared to be human skeletal remains, partially concealed by debris and sand that had accumulated over several years. The remains were positioned in a way that suggested deliberate concealment rather than natural deposition by ocean currents or weather patterns. Silva immediately contacted Miami Beach Police and the Miami-Dade Medical Examiner's Office, triggering a comprehensive investigation that would involve federal agents, state investigators, and forensic specialists from across South Florida. The discovery site was secured and processed using the most advanced techniques available, with every piece of evidence carefully documented and preserved for analysis. Dr. Patricia Martinez, a forensic anthropologist with the Miami-Dade Medical Examiner's Office, conducted a thorough analysis of the remains and determined that they belonged to all 3 missing friends, Isabella Rodriguez, Ashley Williams, and Marcus Johnson. Dental records and DNA analysis provided positive identification, finally giving their families the closure they had desperately sought for 4 years. However, Dr. Martinez's findings also revealed disturbing evidence that transformed the case from a missing person investigation into a triple homicide inquiry. The skeletal analysis showed that all 3 friends had died from blunt force trauma to their skulls, indicating that they had been murdered rather than drowning or dying from natural causes. The positioning of the remains beneath the pier and their concealment with construction debris suggested that the murders had been premeditated and that the killer had possessed detailed knowledge of the area's layout and access points. The location was not accessible to casual beachgoers and would have required special knowledge or authorization to reach. Detective Maria Santos, who had taken over the cold case investigation in 2022, began re-examining every aspect of the original case with the knowledge that they were now seeking a triple murderer rather than trying to understand an accidental disappearance. She worked with federal agents and state investigators to analyze the evidence and identify potential suspects who had both the opportunity and the knowledge necessary to commit these crimes. The discovery beneath the pier also included personal items that had belonged to the three friends: Ashley's distinctive silver bracelet, Marcus's college class ring, and Isabella's waterproof watch. These items had been preserved by the specific environmental conditions beneath the pier, providing investigators with potential DNA evidence that hadn't been available during the original investigation. Advanced forensic analysis revealed foreign DNA on the victim's clothing and personal items, genetic material that belonged to someone not in any existing law enforcement database. This evidence confirmed that the three friends had been in physical contact with their killer shortly before their deaths, supporting the theory that they had been murdered by someone they had encountered on the beach. The investigation team began focusing on individuals who would have had access to the restricted area beneath the pier where the remains were discovered. This included beach maintenance personnel, lifeguards, construction workers, and other authorized personnel who worked in the area during 2019. One line of inquiry examined the friends' activities and interactions during their time in Miami Beach, looking for anyone who might have followed them or targeted them specifically. Detective Santos reviewed security camera footage from nearby businesses, interviewed hotel staff and restaurant workers, and reconstructed the friends' movements during their final weekend. Another investigative thread focused on the possibility that the murders were connected to other unsolved crimes in the Miami Beach area. Santos consulted with federal databases to identify similar cases and worked with other jurisdictions to determine if the same perpetrator might be responsible for additional violent crimes. The investigation received a significant break in September 2023, when genetic genealogy techniques identified a potential match for the foreign DNA found on the victim's belongings. The genetic material was linked to the family tree of Thomas Crawford, a 45-year-old former beach maintenance supervisor who had been employed by Miami Beach during the summer of 2019. Crawford's employment records showed that he had been responsible for maintaining the pier area where the victims' remains were discovered, and would have had unrestricted access to the location where their bodies were concealed. More significantly, Crawford had a history of harassment complaints from female beach employees and had been terminated from his position in August 2019 for inappropriate conduct toward tourists. When investigators approached Crawford at his current residence in Homestead, his reaction immediately confirmed their suspicions. Rather than expressing surprise about their inquiry, he asked if they had found all of them and appeared to be expecting law enforcement contact about events from 4 years earlier. His familiarity with the case details and obvious guilt about his involvement provided investigators with probable cause for a search warrant. The search of Crawford's property revealed a disturbing collection of photographs, personal items, and souvenirs that appeared to be trophies from various crimes. Among these items were additional photographs of Isabella, Ashley, and Marcus that had been taken without their knowledge during their time on Miami Beach, suggesting that Crawford had been stalking them before their murders. Confronted with the DNA evidence and his collection of incriminating materials, Crawford eventually provided a detailed confession that explained what had happened to the three friends during their final afternoon on Miami Beach. According to his statement, he had been watching Isabella, Ashley, and Marcus throughout their weekend visit, becoming obsessed with what he perceived as their privileged lifestyle and carefree attitude. Crawford admitted that he had followed the friends to the rocky outcropping area on Saturday afternoon, initially planning only to confront them about their behavior, which he claimed had been disturbing other beachgoers. However, when Ashley had threatened to report his inappropriate comments to police, Crawford had become enraged and attacked all three friends with a maintenance tool he had been carrying. The confession revealed that Crawford had murdered Isabella first when she had tried to defend Ashley, then killed Marcus when he had attempted to intervene, and finally murdered Ashley when she had tried to escape. He had then transported their bodies to the concealed location beneath the pier using a maintenance vehicle, believing that the remains would never be discovered due to the restricted access and low visibility of the area. Crawford's confession also explained other evidence from the original investigation, including why Isabella's camera had been found in the water and why the friends' beach belongings had been left undisturbed. According to Crawford, he had thrown the camera into the ocean to eliminate potential evidence while leaving their other possessions to suggest that they had simply disappeared while swimming. In November 2023, Thomas Crawford pleaded guilty to 3 counts of first-degree murder in the deaths of Isabella Rodriguez, Ashley Williams, and Marcus Johnson. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, finally bringing justice for the 3 friends and their families who had endured 4 years of agonizing uncertainty. Isabella's parents, Carlos and Maria Rodriguez, spoke at Crawford's sentencing hearing about the devastating impact their daughter's murder had on their lives and their Cuban-American community. They described the 4 years of false hope, private investigations, and gradual acceptance of loss that had consumed their family's existence. Ashley's parents, Colonel James and Patricia Williams, emphasized their gratitude to the law enforcement officers who had never given up on finding their daughter's killer. They spoke about Ashley's dreams of becoming a journalist and her commitment to telling important stories that would help other people. Marcus's parents, David and Linda Johnson, reflected on their son's potential contributions to the technology field and his dedication to using his skills to make positive changes in the world. They expressed relief that Crawford would never have the opportunity to harm other families as he had destroyed theirs. The resolution of the case led to enhanced security measures at Miami Beach, including improved background checks for all personnel with access to restricted areas and better coordination between different agencies responsible for beach safety and maintenance. The case also highlighted the vulnerability of tourists and visitors to predators who might specifically target them due to their unfamiliarity with local conditions and dangers. Roberto Silva, the lifeguard whose discovery finally solved the case, was recognized by the Miami Beach Police Department and the victims' families for his diligence and commitment to public safety. His willingness to thoroughly investigate an unusual observation demonstrated the important role that dedicated public servants play in protecting beach visitors and maintaining community safety. The Three Friends case became a study in the importance of persistence in cold case investigations and the potential for new forensic technologies to provide justice even years after crimes occur. It demonstrated how genetic genealogy and advanced DNA analysis can solve cases that once seemed impossible to crack. For the Miami Beach community, the story of Isabella, Ashley, and Marcus served as a sobering reminder that evil can hide behind familiar faces and trusted positions, and that even popular tourist destinations are not immune to predatory violence. The case led to increased awareness about personal safety and the importance of staying alert even in seemingly secure environments. The Three Friends families established memorial scholarships in their children's names. Isabella's focusing on marine biology research, Ashley's supporting aspiring journalists, and Marcus's providing opportunities for students interested in computer engineering. These scholarships ensure that their children's passions and dreams continue to benefit others even after their tragic deaths. The summer sun still shines on Miami Beach, still draws millions of visitors to its pristine white sand and warm Atlantic waters. But now, when people walk along the shoreline or explore the rocky areas that harbor diverse marine life, some remember Isabella Rodriguez, Ashley Williams, and Marcus Johnson. 3 young people whose celebration of friendship and achievement was cut short by a predator who believed he could hide his crimes forever. Justice delayed is not justice denied, and their case proves that the truth, no matter how carefully concealed, will eventually come to light through the dedication of investigators and the advancement of forensic science. The 4-year journey from devastating loss to painful closure experienced by their families serves as both a tragedy and a testament to the enduring power of hope, persistence, and the human commitment to seeking justice for those who can no longer speak for themselves.